Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. Worked for a company for years and was constantly lied to and overworked, and left for a much better paying job. The second story. I complained to a manager I know about the talentless server, and it led to his dismissal. The third story. The 2 chief engineers who understood the product have left the company. It's gone to hell. I'm quitting soon too. The first story is, break your promise to me after last year's review, and I'll keep mine to you. Now that everything is settled and all ties are cut, I can finally post this story. On mobile, so I'm sorry if it reads like trash. I've been working for a company for 9 years now, servicing commercial food equipment as a technician, and I'll always be grateful to the people who originally brought me on by taking a chance on me and giving me a solid career. About 3 years ago, the company was bought by the original owner by a board, and instantly made what was a great atmosphere a very nauseating one. They then fired all of management and replaced them with their own people. One of those people was my future service manager, MD. MD slowly started to find reasons to fire many of the techs, who were making a good check, and then would expect the remaining techs in the area to pick up the slack. I, still trying to be a good guy, never complained, and never turned down a call. Need me to go from South NJ to Nanuet? Sure thing. Need me to go down to North Carolina to install a rack oven? I'll leave tomorrow. On-call guy can't get out to a call and you need someone to take it? I got you. I did all this with the hopes it would lead to a good review and a raise. Review time comes and MD calls me to tell me he's going to meet me on a call, and we'll do the review over lunch. And I'm like, man, I must be sitting pretty if he's coming down here to pay for lunch and do the review, because it was normally over the phone or in the office. I see MD in the parking lot, and we exchange pleasantries and go to BK for a quick bite, while we do the review, and the moment I sit down he starts bombarding me with calls that needed multiple visits, installs that went over schedule, parts not being installed, etc, etc. Not gonna lie, I didn't know how to respond, so I just took it and nodded my head, along like I was learning something, and at the end he said my raise would be 2%, instead of the normal 3%, and if I perform better in certain areas I'll get that 3%. The entire next year I bust my A working on average 60 hours a week while keeping those critiques in mind. Now mind you, in this year's time the on-call rotation has gone from 6 to 3. Parts inventory on van cut from 25K to 10K, and the company has been growing at a rapid rate by buying up smaller competitors. Went from only hot side in supermarkets to hot and cold side in supermarkets, restaurants, and manufacturing facilities. All this extra SH and massive growth, but no help ever came to ease the workload of the techs. Still though, I never complained, and did what I could to make myself valuable. Review time comes again, and I'm so effing positive I have this in the bag that I was not worried in the slightest. I meet with MD in the office, and he proceeds to again tell me nothing but what I could have done better. This time I was not just nodding along, and told him that my first time fix rate went up even though inventory was reduced by half. I'm constantly the person who covers for my coworkers on call if they needed coverage, that I'm even the primary contact some clients prefer to talk to because I was able to develop a relationship with them. He told me that everything I said was true of everyone else, and that I needed to do more to stand out from the rest, but he did see I was putting in more effort than last year, and decided 2.5% was my raise. I flat out asked him what exactly do I have to do to not just get the 3%, but more, because I can't support myself and my family if this continues, and something would have to change. He says 80% first time fix, and averaging 6 calls a day, along with keeping up what I've already been doing. This past year I did exactly as that effort said. Review time was 3 months ago, and I meet with MD again, and I'm told that while I did average more than 6 calls a day, I was only at a 75% first time fix when the benchmark was 80%, and would only be getting 2.5% again. More was obviously said, but it's not important. After this review, I honestly broke down to my girlfriend, because I feel like I'm letting her down, and holding us back with the amount I make. I told her I felt like even though I'm able to pay for our rent and living expenses, and she's able to pay off our debts, that I feel like we're just stuck in this hole, and I feel useless being unable to give her what I want to be able to give her, which is everything. Well, she went and got my resume, updated it, made it look like an adult wrote it, and submitted it to Indeed and a few others. I was kind of annoyed at her for doing it without telling me, but wanted to jump her leg when she showed me how many hits I was getting. For the next 2 weeks I interviewed after work and on the weekends with a number of companies, but I had my hope out for one in particular, because base pay was $70K, for exactly what I was already doing. I got an email from them asking I could do a second interview and smash it out of the park, but forget to ask about pay. After this second interview, I'm asked to meet with their service manager for dinner, which went fantastic. He asks me about pay, and I tell him I'm looking for $30 an hour, and he looked at me and said, "You're not good at negotiating. How does $35 an hour sound?" And I just about kissed him. He tells me that it's $35 an hour and $52.5 an hour overtime, and union after a probationary period. Obviously, I accepted. Following Monday, I email MD saying my last day would be that next Friday, and I needed written confirmation that my earned PTO would be paid out. He called me about an hour after I sent it, said he was confused, that this is irresponsible of me, that the young guys still need someone to train them. I should have come to him and management if I was feeling underappreciated. I told him that didn't answer my question about my earned PTO, and if it was being paid out or not, and he effing hung up on me. I get an email right after from someone I never heard about saying that I will be getting my PTO. Next day he calls me and tells me I need to go to Maryland for an install and train those guys on installation, and I tell him that I won't be doing that. He tells me he wasn't asking, and I tell he needs to explain how this is my problem, and he hangs up on me. He emails me later and tells me he would pick up my van the next Saturday. When he got the van, he meticulously inspected it to make sure everything was in order, and angrily left my life forever when he realized it was empty and my gas card didn't work. Congratulations. Sorry you had to put up with MD for so long. People never fall for such empty promises from management twice. If you know you worked great and see results, and they keep saying you haven't earned it yet, then they don't plan on giving you what you want, even if you overachieve and reach 110%. Just get out of that company, and if you can, poach customers too. I'm very glad your GF was looking out for you as well. I'm happy for you, but I want to suggest that you think about using your new job to save up money and start your own business. If I understand what you're doing correctly, it's worth a lot more than even $35 an hour. That way you can make more money and be a competitor for your former crappy firm. The second story is, got my horrible server fired. A little bit of background to this story before I get into it. I used to work at upscale casual restaurant that serves American cuisine, sushi, and cocktails. It was also sort of a chain, as the company has 46 locations with most in the US, and a few outside of the US. At the time I worked there, I was a food runner, and sometimes when it was slow, or the executive chef was busy, I would also be the expediter. It was a nice little job where I made minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, and got some tips since I got a little bit of a cut from all the servers' tips. I ended up leaving that job after working there for a year, but I was really good friends with a bunch of people there, including the general manager. 2 to 3 years ago, I decided to stop by. I had just gotten paid and was in the mood for some good sushi. This restaurant had a little sushi bar that sat 4 to 5 people, and it was right in front of the sushi chefs, so you could watch them make sushi for other people, and order sushi directly from them as well. The sushi chefs actually made a pretty good hourly wage, and then they got a percentage of a server's tips based on how much sushi their customers ordered. But the main thing is that when you're at the sushi bar, you do have an actual server who takes care of you, and it is the easiest job. They take your order from anything from the kitchen, get your drinks, and then the sushi chefs tell them what to ring up for the sushi that you ordered directly from them. So if you're sitting there, chances are most of what you're going to be eating is sushi, so the server has to stop by every once in a while to check on you. Well, when I sat there, the server whose section included the sushi bar did absolutely nothing. The sushi chef, who I'm friends with and knew him when I worked there, has to practically do everything for me. He got me my drinks and refills, kept having to bug the server to ring up the food I wanted from the kitchen, and get me everything pretty much. It pretty much peed me off since I knew the server was going to be getting a majority of the tip that I gave, but at the same time I didn't want to stiff him, since that would mean the sushi chef wouldn't get his cut. The general manager saw me sitting there and came over to talk to me to see how I was doing, since I haven't seen him in a while. While I was talking to him, I mentioned that I did not like the server at all, and he did absolutely nothing. That I wasn't comfortable giving him a tip for doing nothing, but at the same time I wanted to tip the sushi chef only. I only had my debit card, so I didn't have any cash to pay or give directly to the sushi chef. Unfortunately, this wasn't something that could be done, but the general manager looked at me with the most serious face on and told me to consider that server fired. I was a little speechless about this, since I only really wanted him to talk to the server about this problem, since I could see the server throughout the entire meal doing absolutely nothing, since he had no one else to take care of. I had already paid the bill with my debit card, and I just had to sign for the tip and such. The bill was like $50, and I decided to go ahead and write down a big fat zero for the tip. Afterwards, I walked out of the restaurant into the nearest ATM to get some cash, came back and gave the sushi chef $20 in cash, and told him that was all for him. There's always the possibility that the terrible server has been on thin ice for a long time. Most likely this is not the first or even the second time he's done so. And the fact that you complain to the manager, pointing out specific lapses, means that the manager can in good conscience finally get rid of him. Well, or if the case were in a state with relatively strict dismissal rules, a customer complaint serious enough to reach the general manager is often sufficient grounds for dismissal. Of course, this usually involves serious misconduct and a chain of command, blah blah blah. Anyway, glad the sushi chef got his tip, and glad the business was able to cut the dead weight. And the last story is, senior engineer just quit and left the company on fire. I work at a software engineering firm on a team that works with back-end networking. This place is a nightmare to work at for a multitude of reasons, mostly out-of-touch helicopter management and an unmaintainable code base that the higher-ups have refused to spend the money to fix, long since I came on board. Almost everyone on my team is not planning to be working here at the end of the year, and this place has become a revolving door for new employees. The only reason the company stayed afloat is due to the 2 senior engineers that were here since the beginning. Both of them were awesome guys, who helped everyone else make sense of the mess of a product we had to work on. At the beginning of the year, management decided that we could no longer work fully remote. We had to come to the office for at least 10 hours a week, and log that on the work computers. This was effing stupid for many reasons. Over 20% of the staff here were out of state for F's sake, and the company has had one of its best years when we worked fully remote. When this got announced, one of the senior engineers walked immediately and jumped to the biggest competitor. No one has come on as a replacement. We've already missed a deadline because of it. Well, last week the management announced no more remote work period. People are not happy, and today the office has been an absolute SH show. The main event of this circus, though, was something to behold. The last senior engineer walked right into management as he arrived and spent the entire morning there. Right before lunch, he came out and announced he just quit the team. Over the weekend, he already lined up a new job, and when he came in today, he demanded an $80K raise to work in the office. When they laughed in his face, he told them he quit. Apparently, management changed their tune immediately and tried to appease him with a $5K raise, but he told them to go F themselves. They spent 2 hours trying to give him peanuts to get him to stay, even offering him fully remote work, but he just laughed in their face. Most of the team has taken the rest of the day off, and some of us even went to lunch with him while he told us the story of him holding management by the balls. No one knows the codebase anymore here. The documentation sucks, and the company is actually F'd right now, already looking for another job as well. F managers. A company whose cash flow depends on 2 senior engineers should sit down and listen to the problems, questions, concerns, and needs of those engineers. Not act like a-holes who think they're big bosses and think no one will ever leave their great jobs. Screw those companies. Subscribe, hit the like button, and have a good day.